I had been looking forward to my birthday for weeks. I mean, really looking forward to it. But I never could have imagined it would turn into the worst day of my life. Or so I thought. Let me paint you a picture. A key turns in a lock. The front door opens, and there's a young woman, we'll call her Sara, with a face that's pale and stained with tears. She steps inside, and every movement feels heavy, like she's carrying a huge invisible weight. The door clicks shut, and the entryway is suddenly dim and way too quiet. She just leans her head back against the wood and closes her eyes. A single tear escapes, cutting a little path through her smudged makeup. She's not sobbing, though. It's that quiet, hollowed-out kind of sadness. With a shaky sigh, she lets her work bag slide off her shoulder and drop to the floor with a soft thud. Her keys are next. She throws them onto a little table, and the clatter is deafening in the silence. For a second, she just stands there, a statue of pure despair in her own home. You know how every tick of a clock can feel like it's mocking you? That was her, counting the seconds of a day that was supposed to be a party, but had turned into a total nightmare. This was not how her birthday was supposed to go. This was not how her life was supposed to go. You know, the crazy part is the day started out so perfectly. The morning sun crept into her bedroom, waking her up gently. The very first thing she saw on her phone wasn't her alarm, but a happy birthday text from her sister, packed with a dozen confetti and cake emojis. Sara smiled, a real, genuine smile. 28. It felt good. It felt stable. She had a job she was actually proud of, a cozy apartment, and people who loved her. Things just kept getting better at the office. Her team had secretly decorated her desk overnight. It was covered in bright pink streamers with a few balloons tied to her monitor. There was a card signed by everyone. "Happy birthday, Sara. You're the best," one of her coworkers, Sara, had written. Another one said, "Don't know what we'd do without you." And the thing is, she loved her job. As a junior graphic designer at a marketing firm, she felt like she'd finally found her spot. She was good at it, and she knew it. Her campaigns always got praised for being creative, and she had this knack for turning a client's jumbled ideas into something sharp and beautiful. For the first time in her career, she didn't feel like an imposter. She felt valued. Even her boss, Mr. Harrison, a guy who usually just communicates with short emails and stiff nods, had stopped by her desk. "Happy birthday, Sara," he'd said, with this rare, thin smile. "Good work on the Henderson account. Very impressive." That praise made her glow. She had poured her heart into that project, staying late, sketching out concept after concept. His approval felt like the icing on her birthday cake. All day long, her phone was buzzing with happy messages. Her mom, her friends from college, her cousin overseas. Every little notification was a burst of joy. She felt wrapped up in this cocoon of warmth, just looking forward to a quiet dinner with her boyfriend, Liam. The day felt perfect, almost too perfect. The first crack in that perfect day showed up at 3:45 p.m. It was an email from Mr. Harrison's assistant. The subject line was just one word: meeting. The body of the email was even shorter. Mr. Harrison would like to see you in his office at 4 p.m. Sara frowned. That was weird. They weren't working on anything that needed an urgent, last-minute meeting. Sara, from the next cubicle, leaned over. "Uh-oh, the 4 p.m. Friday meeting. Never a good sign," she whispered with a nervous laugh. Sara tried to shrug it off. Maybe it's a surprise birthday bonus, she thought. A hopeful little fantasy. At exactly 4 p.m., she knocked on Mr. Harrison's glass door. "Come in," he said, his voice totally flat. He wasn't alone. A woman from HR, someone Sara had only seen a couple of times, was sitting in the chair next to his desk with a blank, unreadable look on her face. That's when a cold knot of dread started to form in Sarah's stomach. This was not a bonus. "Sara, please, have a seat," Mr. Harrison said, pointing to the chair across from them. He wouldn't even make eye contact. He just shuffled some papers around on his desk. The HR woman gave her this tight, clinical smile. "Sara," Mr. Harrison finally started, looking somewhere over her shoulder. "As you know, the company has been facing some economic headwinds. We've had to make some difficult decisions to ensure the firm's long-term stability." All that corporate jargon, it felt like a punch to the gut. It was a shield, a way to deliver horrible news without actually dealing with the human being in front of him. Sarah's heart started pounding in her ears, and she felt the blood drain from her face. "We've been conducting a comprehensive review of all departments," he droned on. "And as part of a broader restructuring, your position has been eliminated." The words just hung there in the air, sharp and suffocating. Eliminated? Not, "you're fired." Not, "we have to let you go." Eliminated. Like she was just a line item on a spreadsheet that they'd neatly erased.
"What?" The word came out as a faint whisper. She couldn't process it. "But my performance, the Henderson account, you just said." "This decision isn't a reflection of your performance, Sara." The HR woman jumped in, her voice smooth, as if she was reading from a script. "The company is simply moving in a different strategic direction. It's a business decision." A business decision. On her birthday. The cruelty of it was just unbelievable. They knew. Of course they knew. All those balloons and the card and the happy birthdays from that morning suddenly felt like a sick joke. Were they planning this while they were smiling at her desk? The shock turned into a wave of humiliation. They started talking about severance packages, Cobra, returning her laptop. Sara didn't hear any of it. Her mind was just a roaring, empty space. She felt that burning sensation behind her eyes and told herself, "Don't cry. Don't you dare let them see you cry." She just numbly nodded, took the folder the HR woman handed her, and stood up on legs that felt like they were about to give out. The walk back to her desk was the longest walk of her life. The cheerful pink streamers seemed to be mocking her now. The balloons looked sad and deflated. Sara gave her a wide-eyed, questioning look, but Sara couldn't even look at her. She just started packing, shoving her mug, her photos, and that hateful birthday card into a cardboard box. The office, which used to feel like a second home, suddenly felt hostile and alien. She could feel everyone staring, a mix of pity and, she was sure, a little bit of relief that it wasn't them. She didn't say goodbye. She couldn't. With her head down and the box in her arms, she walked out of the building she'd walked into so happily that morning and stepped into the cold, indifferent city. The whole trip home was a blur, and the birthday texts that kept popping up on her phone, each one felt like a tiny, sharp jab to the heart, a reminder of the happy life she was living just an hour ago, a life that had just been eliminated. She got to her apartment building in a complete daze. The walk from the subway had been awful. Each step felt heavier than the last. The city was buzzing with that Friday evening energy. People laughing, heading to dinner, starting their weekends. But for Sara, the world had just screeched to a halt. All she wanted was the silent, empty darkness of her apartment, where she could finally just fall apart. This brings us back to where we started. Her keys clattering on the table, her back against the door. The crushing weight of a day that had promised everything and then ripped it
all away. She took a deep, shaky breath, getting ready for the crushing loneliness she knew was waiting for her. She pushed herself off the door, her body feeling slow and heavy, and stepped into the darkness of her living room. And then the world just exploded. Surprise! The lights flashed on, totally blinding her. The air erupted with dozens of voices yelling at once, confetti cannons popping and music blasting. For a second, Sarah's brain just couldn't catch up. She froze, hand still on the light switch, her eyes wide with shock.
Her entire family was there. Her parents, her sister, her cousins, and all her closest friends, just beaming at her, holding balloons and noisemakers. And right in the center of the room, standing behind a table piled with food and a giant, gorgeous cake, was Liam, with a huge, loving grin on his face. The apartment she expected to be her sad, empty hideout was overflowing with life, color, and most of all, with love. The contrast was so extreme, the emotional whiplash so intense, that she just snapped. The tears she'd been fighting back since Mr. Harrison's office finally came. But these weren't quiet tears. It was a raw, gut-wrenching sob, a tidal wave of every single emotion from the past 2 hours crashing down all at once. Liam's smile vanished, instantly replaced with concern. He rushed over and wrapped her in his arms as she started to shake. "Sarah? Hey, what is it? What's wrong?" The crowd went quiet. All their happy faces turned to confusion and worry. Through her choked sobs, Sarah finally got the words out. I lost my job," she cried into his shoulder. "He fired me. Today. On my birthday." A hush fell over the room. Her sister Chloe came over and put a hand on her back. "Oh, Sarah, I'm so sorry." Liam just held her tighter. "What? That's horrible. I can't believe they'd do that." He pulled back to look her in the eyes, his own full of fierce protection. "That man is a monster. But you know what? Forget him. Forget that place." Sarah looked around the room, at the faces of every person she loved, all of them looking back at her with nothing but pure support. Her mom was already on her way over, a determined look on her face, ready to do what moms do.
Liam took her hand. "This party wasn't just for your birthday," he said, his voice soft but firm. "It was to celebrate you. Everything about you. Your talent, your kindness, your strength. That job was just a job. It isn't who you are. This," he said, gesturing to the room full of people, "this is who you are." And right then, in that moment, the story of the day started to change. The pain was still there, like a dull ache in her chest, but it wasn't the only thing anymore. The shock of the party, the incredible love in that room, it was a much stronger force. It didn't erase what happened, but it completely overshadowed it. Chloe came back with a glass of water and a plate with a giant slice of cake. "Your boss is a jerk," she said, plain and simple. "But he can't take this away from you. We won't let him." Looking at the cake, at her sister's face, at Liam's steady support, and at the small sea of people who showed up just for her, Sarah felt something new bubble up through the grief. Gratitude. A deep, overwhelming gratitude. She took a bite of cake. It was the sweetest thing she had ever tasted. So yeah, she lost her job. But in losing it, she got this powerful, undeniable reminder of what she truly had. A job can be eliminated. An office can be cleaned out. A key card can be shut off. But the love and support from the people who really matter, that's permanent. That's the real stuff. the worst day of her life, in the most backward way possible, ended up showing her what was most important. One door had been slammed shut, violently and cruelly, but 100 new windows had just been thrown wide open, flooding her life with light. Tell me, have you ever had a day that was just the absolute worst, only for it to be turned around by an unexpected act of kindness or love? Share your story in the comments below. I genuinely love to read them. And if this story hit home for you, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe for more stories like this. See you next time on English Story Class, and keep speaking English.